Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. Look who's back, it's Crusty. If you're not familiar with this car and new to the channel, this is a 78 Toyota Corolla that I've been building now for the past couple of years. LS powered, V8, full chassis. I built it all, car started from nothing. It was a real crusty shell. And I'm going to show you here today how crusty she really was. We're going to go and weld up about 20 spots on this side of the car so I can get this shell ready to get it all in primer. So I'm going to take you along now and show you some of the pieces that I made, some of the holes I welded up, and get this car ready so we can get it in primer. Stick around. I guess it's time now. I got the Mustang put away. Let's get this puppy out. Time to get back at that. Get back at Crusty. Get all this gear moved out of the way here now. And get in there and get the car out. It's been itching to get back at that. Well, she's out. I'm walking around and looking at her. It's all still bare metal. I've seen some minor stains in her here and there, but that's been left untouched for 6 months in this garage. A lot of people ask me how I keep it from not flash rusting and stuff like that. I spend a lot of money on this garage. This is a fully insulated garage. It's the floor is never wet. You know, I try to keep the temperature regular in here, and that's usually the key. If you got a drafty garage and it sweats and it's always damp and cold, and this will rust, right? I just got this garage. When I built this garage, I went and spent a lot of money on insulation because we have harsh winters here. So this is what happens when you build a garage with lots of insulation. Bare metal doesn't rust. But time to get back at this now. I have a lot of plans to get back at this. I've been thinking about it a lot here lately. I really would like to be on this car full time. I can't be. I have work here on the floor that I got to do, jobs. I want to do as much as I possibly can. But for now, I just want to get it out on the floor. It's, you know, it's dusty, right? Yeah, she's gone from crusty to dusty. Yeah. But I'm pleased it's out now. So I'm going to clean up the garage here now. Get all my toolboxes and everything poked away in there. I got an engine over there I'm going to poke in the corner to make some room here for this. So it's time to get started on this one. So it's time to get back at Crusty. I haven't touched this car in about 6 months. Getting back at it now. I have a lot of things to do. I want to get a motor transmission mounted in it, roll cage made for it, get the entire front clip mounted on it. What else? Oh, a lot more to be done. But the first thing I'm going to go at here now is that what I'm going to do is the main shell of this car needs to be finished off. I would like to get the main shell. It's been sitting around now 6 months in bare metal, so I'm kind of pushing it. So I like to finish off the main shell, which is basically around these two windows and the roof section, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to strip all this here, okay? I have a couple of small holes here I got to go over. I got more holes here. Can't really see, but there's holes in here. You see my finger in there, see? Got to make up stuff for that. So she's gone in there. She's rusty here. I don't know if there's any holes here or not. It's very unusual way this car rusted. As you know, if you followed along with this car. A lot of this here, if you're not familiar with it, all this here is all made up. This was all rusted out. Okay, all that was rusted out. This entire rear panel here was rusted out on the back end of her. The lower sections here were gone. The rocker panels down here were gone. I moved the wheel arches back. I stretched them. I got videos on all that. Okay. And up here in the front, the corners of the windshield frame on both sides was gone. She was gone up along top here, and she had vents in her. I deleted the vents in it because I'm moving the firewall back in this. And I've done a bunch of work in here, plating all this up here so that I can actually have something to mount the firewall to when I sets it all up. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull the doors, take the doors off of this. I'm going to take this back glass out. I have new rubbers for it, so I'm just going to cut the rubbers, take the glass out, leave the rubber on the glass. That way I got something to protect the glass and just lay that aside for now. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strip this body on this. Now, there's a lot of heavy rust on this car. Okay, I'm going to strip it with the grinder, 24 grit. A lot of this up here, that's a bit aggressive for anything, but if you get up here and you look on the roof, I have a lot of this on the roof. Same thing. Okay, she's called Crusty for a reason. All right, so I'm going to grind all this off with a grinder, strip all the paint off of this here. There's only one coat of paint on it. Clean everything up. See how much more holes I got. Over here, she's gone here. And I expect this here to be a lot worse than she's gone in there. And she's got a very strange spot, but she's got a hole there. Like you look along here, this is perfect here, look. And you come along, they're just gone. I don't know. Our drip rails are decent. I'll just clean all them out. Right. Inside the doors, all that is good on this, okay? Amazingly enough. Right, a little bit of surface rust there, nothing serious. I'm going to pop the doors off it. This one over here, I'm going to delete the antenna that was there. I'll weld them up. Right? I got the windshield out of it, so that's no big deal. So I'm going to go ahead now, haul the doors off it, pop this back window out of it, and get started on grinding this up. So that was tricky to get out. The rubber itself was actually destroyed to the point that I can always tear it off, break it out in pieces. But I got this dum-dum. This stuff in here is called Dum Dum, and it's in along the bottom here. That is so sticky. I just ruined a pair of gloves. I had a pair of gloves over, look, all over the utility knife. Blade all over this, look. Nest here since 1978, and it never hardened up. And it's still soft like it was brand new. That's the key to these. A lot of people put the rubber seals in the cars, okay? In the old cars, and they don't put no, what they call Dum Dum. It's just like a little strip that runs along inside that inside corner there. And if you don't put that in, I can guarantee you the windows are going to leak, okay? That's the key to these here. And you can usually buy this stuff, comes on strips. Most of it is grey today that I see in a lot of the stuff that I see around now. It just comes on little strips and you stick it in there and then you pull the window in and it squats into it and water tights it. But it doesn't seal it. Like you put urethane or something in there, you'll never get the rubber out of it. And same with some of the seam sealers. But this stuff here, it always stays soft. But I got it out anyway. And I got the doors off it. So now I'm getting ready to strip this now. I'm just going to sit down and start grinding all this. This is all I'm going to use. It's mirror grinder with an aggressive 24. It is a bit much. It's what I got here. I'm going to take my time with it. I have a lot of this rust I got to remove anyway. So I'm going to grind off. I'm not concerned about damaging the panels or whatever, because you can see down here when you look at the lighting, you can see the scratches that are in it. Down through here, that's from me hitting it with the stone. Trying to get as much of the rust off as I possibly can. I'm going to go through the process now. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to clean all this off, get this all grinded off, and then I'm going to put a spray of rust treatment on this here. Play it around with a bit here, spray a little bit on here. You can see it turns it black, right? So I'm going to do the 1/4 pounds. Anywhere there's rust, I'm going to put that on it. It doesn't do nothing on bare metal, okay? It's just over the rust, it'll turn it black. I'm going to do that, and then I want to put the whole thing in a coat of primer. The stuff that I'm using, that international primer, I'm going to pick up a gallon of that and I'm going to spray the whole body with it just to seal it off, because that paint is designed for rust. It's got a rusted inhibitor and everything built into it, so I'm going to spray that over the whole car. I'm not going to do no body work on it yet. I was going to start doing body work, but I said no, I'll spray that on. I can do body work over the top of that after the fact. But I want to put that on it so it's protected. I don't know how far I'm going to get with this car. I'd like to get it running and driving and possibly get it to the track if all goes well next year or next summer. So the plan is to do what I can just to make it look presentable looking, get everything ready, and then I can turn around and bring it back later and paint it, because I'm making a street car out of this. But I think the first that I guess this is done is going to be just a strip car, so I can actually get the bugs worked out of it and whatnot. I don't know what I'm doing with that. That's too far ahead right now. I just want to get the car built first. So I'm going to sit down now and spend a few hours cleaning this all off in around here, getting it all cleaned off, see how many more holes I got left to do, and then we'll start patching up the holes. I got everything grinding down to 24s down so far. I'm still left with this real heavy rust on it. Now, I don't recommend doing this. This car here, I'm just trying to save it just because it's just a project of mine. It still has a lot of rust on it. What I'm doing here now is I'm actually using the grinder with the zip blade. I'm using it as a grinder, but I'm very, very light with it. Do not use them heavily. I'm just barely touching the metal with this here. It actually roughs it up. It makes it rough. I'm not concerned about it. I'm a bodyman. I'm going to look after all this after the fact. I just want to get as much of the rust out there as I possibly can. So this is what I got grinded, and this is what's not grinded. And I'll show you what it looks like and how it works. Just very, very lightly to scraping over the top of it. You can't sandblast none of this because you'll destroy the entire panels. I'm going to put a rust treatment on this here, and I'm going to put a primer on it that inhibits rust. try to make it last. Is it going to last forever? No, okay? This is just a cool little project I got put together. I know that it's eventually going to break out. I'm not intending to spend a lot of money on the body on this car in terms of primers and paints and stuff like that. I'll be putting all cheap materials on it because I know what I'm going up against. It's an actual race car, so there's no good in getting crazy with this car and trying to completely restore it, because to me it's not for that. So here's all I'm going to do. See, this is the dark rust here, okay? You come across here and you actually look at it, and you can see the little black specks of it. But now you look at that, you can actually see my grinding marks. Yes, it's marking the metal up, okay? It's very light. The primer, I can pretty well tell you, will almost take care of that. I don't mind having to put a bit of filler on a car, give it a quick skim, but the primer that I use has got a high build to it. And I'm willing to say, and I will experiment with it, if I put 3 coats of it on over this here, I should get a good majority of this down flat with that, because it doesn't bridge and it sinks right into all my work. And I will be experimenting with it, right? So that's what I'm doing with this here after I rust treat it. So, but you can see that entire panel there, that's done the same way. The scratch marks in it, that type of stuff. It's still straight, okay? The panel is straight. The panel appears straight. It's got a very light, you know, very light, just the scratches is what you're feeling there, right? Where I'm rubbing it over. I don't mind that, okay? The main structure of the panel is still there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start grinding this up and getting the rest of this done. Well, let's have it stripped, okay? What can I tell you here now? Stripping the roof off. Every now and again you're going to come across... Let me get up here, see if I can get one on the camera. This stuff here, okay? One thing you got to watch on panels like this here, especially roofs, if you grind this too much, okay, what'll end up happening is you'll stretch that area and it'll raise up on you. I've run into it. All I'm doing is just knocking the head off everything, just using the grinder, just the weight of the grinder, constantly moving it, not getting too much heat into it, okay? And just knocking the head off it and going over it a couple of times. I'm not digging into it too much, because if I digs into it, I'm going to have a whole bunch of high spots on this here. This car is far from mint, okay? So, spot there, right? You see there, that there, just knocked the head off it. That there is not warped or nothing. Nothing's moved on that there now. I'll rust treat that, and that'll be fine for me. She got a couple of holes in here and along here. There's an actual panel. I can't even feel the back of the roof. There's an inner panel, and then there's another panel that's basically underneath this here, okay? When you're looking through there, you can see up through, you can see the rust that's there, but there's another panel there. I don't know if you can see it there or not. But, yeah, there's another panel in behind this here, so, like, she's got a few pinholes up along here. She's bad like this on the other side. I'm going to cut the piece out of it, weld a piece in it. A couple here, I might just try to weld them up. Or hang on, that one there, I'll probably just weld that one up. Down here, I knew that was there. I didn't know that was there. It's only a small spot. And that one there, of course, we had this one here. Then I had a couple right there. And a section of the lip. Oh, section of the lip right there. She's Crusty. I can tell you, she got a good name for herself. Because it's very unusual how this car is rusting, because all this here, there was no rust here, okay? There was no rust here. Very little, no rust. All the rust was down here. There's no holes there. All that strong. The surface rust, all that strong down, and that there is just common, because that's on a ledge there, that type of thing. So that's only an easy fix, right? These here, those Mopars, Dodges were bad for it up here, along the roof here, rotting out. And it's very hard to do much with it, because this stuff here rots from the inside out. So I might turn around and cut a section out of this here and try to fill it up with rust and burr on the inside of it, try to see if I can slow it down. I'm not going to stop it, but I'm going to try to slow it down. Like I said, this is a race car. This car will have no dollar value when it's done, only to me. Like, these are not worth, like, who wants a 78 Toyota with a V8 and whatnot, right? So, like, these cars are more or less fun projects. I have very little money into the shell of this car. If I was to go, like everybody's looking at this Tony 1, you just start with a rust-free shell. This shell here, rust-free, would cost me, I'd say, about $8,000 to $9,000 for a shell for another car to get to buy it and ship it home. I got to find one of these first, right? That's the issue. I've looked into it. I just recently looked at a couple of Chevettes, 78 Chevettes, that style, because that's the car that I had done before. And, you know, they're still wanting $2,500, $3,000 US for one of them, and it needs a bit of work, and it's going to cost me $3,000 to $4,000 to get it home. So I'm still into it. I'll be into it for $8,000 to $9,000 by the time I get it here. Then I want to do all this with it. This car, I paid $200 for it. And I'm welding a bunch of stuff. I'm putting a bunch of evenings into it myself. So I'm not concerned about it being perfect. Like I said, I'm doing this on a budget. Doing with just basic tools. I'm going to use cheap materials. I'm not going to get carried away with like fancy candy paints or metallic colors. This car is going one solid color. It's going to be a light color, white, most likely I'm going to be painting it, just because I want to clean it up and make it look nice. It's going to look good going down the road when you walk around it. I'll do a real nice job on this, making the body look good on it. But I know for a fact that over time, this will break out, okay? And, but it is what it is, okay? So I'm going to start stripping off the other side now and get the other side done. Then I'm going to get into welding patches up. And there you have it. The other side is all stripped off. I wasn't going to bore you with that. I just went ahead and did it and got it done. I knew this was here. Okay. I had to replace that. I think I'm going to take the lead out of it and replace the whole section. Down here was good. Stripped all that down. No holes there. And up underneath there, all that's good. Down along the back there, there's nothing down here. There's nothing up here. But then when you get here, look, she's gone. Hello, hello. And now I get up here, and I got holes along here, holes along here, holes in bad spots along here. So this whole section here is bad. I can turn around and fight with it all I want. It's going to be tricky to try to patch up little small patches, so I might end up putting a whole strip along here, replacing all that. A few people have asked about drip rails, because the drip rail is bad here too. Alright, so this whole section along here is all bad, so I'm probably going to have to replace all of it. So that'll be a fun little video, won't it? I'll get into that now. I won't get into that today. Up here, front was all good. Everything was solid around here, top of the roof. She did have damage somewhere on the lines. She's got a crease going back through her hair and a dent. So she was filled here and the roof was painted on it. And it's quite interesting because the primer that was on it, there it is there, was a yellow. This was stuff that I used back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, a high solids primer. So I figured the work was done in the mid to late 80s. It's the lighter yellow, so it's probably like Sherwin-Williams or something, right? But it's quite interesting. She got a little dent there, and then she got a crease, like something bounced off it and dented the roof. I'm going to work that out a bit and small it better, but that's minor. Yeah. Oh, and the very odd thing is, like around the windows here, you go up around the windows, all that is solid. It's perfect. I even grind that off there. There's just a little bit of surface rust. Then it comes down here, the entire corner gone right out of it. Oh, God, it's always something. The other side is perfect, right? There's nothing wrong with the other side. It's just this side here. So I got to put a little piece in there. I got it. It's an unusual way this car rusted, I can tell you. But like this corner here is all good. The other side was bad. This side is solid. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here now and start on this side here. I'm going to start on the front pillar. Right here. Weld all this stuff up and start working my way around the car, patching up as I'm going, work my way around this way here. And start patching up the remaining of this cab. But like over here, stripped it off the same way. Turn around, use a grinder on it. You can look at the light there now, and you can see what it does to it, see? You look down the side, it's not that bad. Just a little bit of imperfections there. You can see that, and you barely feel it. Right? So, I don't mind that. I'd feel worse. And a lot of this stuff, like I said, I'm going to experiment with that primer that I got. I think it will take a lot of it. A lot of you are saying, oh my God, you can't be at that. But when I was using this stuff back in the 80s, you could feel dents with this stuff. And the problem with it was some of the stuff, it shrank. Depending on what one you used, it shrank, it cracked, all that type of stuff. So you couldn't use it very thick. But the stuff that I've been using, the international primer stuff that I've been using, it doesn't shrink. It's amazing. It sinks right in. It doesn't bridge. So I'm going to experiment with it and see if I can take a lot of this off. So I'm going to get it all prepped, get the rust done on it. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to prime the whole car all over with that stuff. And I'm not going to do no body work on nothing because I got to do body work on both quarter panels. And I'll have to do body work wherever the metal work is too. But I'm going to put that on it. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to sand most of the car to see what it's like. And see if we can get a lot of it out of it. So, anyway, that's down the road. That's not right away. It's going to be soon, though. But let's get over here now and get started on welding them patches in. I went around, I just start welding up, see what I can weld up, the holes. I got to make a little piece to put in there, and I just welded up the other holes. Then I got up here and I tried welding up the hole here, and I ended up cutting it out, okay? I hung on to that somewhere, and I just blew it off the car. I'll find it in a minute. But that was filled up, and I welded up a little spot here, and I come down here. Now, what I went and did, I got that one welded up. I ended up cutting this piece out, and I figured before I take it out, I'd show you, because I missed out on it up here, because this is what you're up against, okay? I take this now, we'll plug this here. See what's coming out of it here already, you know? Ow, just bit me. Look, it's all rusty. All that there is rust. And that's the way the roof section is in this here. It's got this cavity here. This is what it's like, and the back side of it all rusts out, as you can see. So this is what you're up against. So I got to, what I'm going to do is blow all this out now. I'm going to sand all this down, and I got some rust converter there that I got in spray bombs that I'm going to spray in there and let it set overnight. So I'm probably just going to go along now and cut a bunch of pieces out of it. I got to heat this up with a torch, get the lead off it. I'm going to pull that out of it. I mightn't even take it out of it yet, but I know that I welded across here, I'm going to pull this up, so I might just leave it alone for now. Well, I'll get this all blown off. You can see, look. Crusty! There's her name there, huh? Well, now, I got into it. I ended up getting into it, and it's extremely rusty, and I cut it out. All this is an inner structure, yes, and it's there when the car is put together. I'm not going to bother to put it back. It's a race car, okay? I turned around and trimmed it out, and I trimmed it up as nice as I could, because all it is a pocket to hold up dirt, and now it can actually pass down through so that it can build up there. So I'm going to leave it alone. There is real no structure in this corner. It's just an inner structure when they were putting the roof together. This here joined on and whatnot, so it just continued on piece from this here. All the structure is still here, so I'm going to leave that alone. And this is what I'm going to do with it. I picked up a few cans of this a while back. It's a spray-on rust converter from Rust Check. I'm just going to spray all this here and here now. I cleaned it up as best I could, and I'm just going to spray it on that there and just see what it does for it. See if I can save some of this and drown it in through there if I can, because I know the backside of this here is all bad. And down here the same thing. I got into it, the corner was gone too, right? This car rusts in the most unusual ways, I can tell you that. So I'm going to go ahead now and spray that stuff on there and let it set up. I sprayed it out the can, and you can see it almost goes on like a clear coat. I drowned it. I sprayed it down inside here and drowned it. Drowned it. That's a dandy word, isn't it? Being very generous with it. Spraying that in there. Did the same thing down here. Not worried about dripping or anything like that. It's going to drip off. I'm just trying to save this now as much as I can. Make less work for me. I'm going to spray this on the spot so we can actually see what it does. You can see the pits here. Okay. I have another stuff that I'm probably going to use on. But I'm going to put this on it for the night, see what it does. They're all welded up. Simple little process. You see me do that before in other videos, using the coat hanger and the drill to actually shape out for large holes. I went ahead and I welded all them up there, and then I come up here and I welded up the few pinholes that I had along here. Got them done. I sprayed that stuff on there. As you can see, it turned black. It's okay, right? I got it cheap, so I sprayed in there. Did turn black. Some stuff stayed brown, which I figure is just a stain, so the rust converter never actually got into it. Now the other stuff that I'm going to use on the outside of the body is a little bit more aggressive, and it really turns black. But all I'm going to do with this now is I'm just going to put a coat of paint, everything in here, and then basically put a piece around on top of that. So I'm going to go ahead, because there's a lot of stuff I got to do on this roof. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a piece for here and put it in, piece for here and put it in. And I got a spot here I got to weld up, down in here. And I got these spots here. I'm going to go ahead and get the pieces made up and get them mounted in and welded in place. So I got that all welded in and grinded up. I spot welded it across there. I made this lip a little bit longer, so that way I can grind it off here, make it nice and flush. And then I flushed it here, and I cut it in across here and cleaned all this up with a small stone and the die grinder. Now I moved down over to here. I'm going to put a full section in here, and I'm going to replace this entire lip inside because it is flaky, and I've been having troubles welding some of this stuff. If there's any amount of rust, I'll just start burning holes. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this lip. Now this is not straight in on 90. It's on an angle this way, okay? So I made up this piece here. You hold that against that there. That's straight against that. You bring this over here and lay it flat down here. You would notice what happens to the metal, okay? Now, some people want to go and make templates. All I'm going to do is take that distance there, which is roughly an inch, and I'm going to mark it parallel along that line there, and that way I'll just cut it off there. That way that will slide in and fit in against the inside section. That's all I went and did. Is it marked along there? You can see the way I got it done there. Now I'll go trim that up and trim it to fit it so it slides in and meets up on the inside edge. Now when I'm doing a lot of heavy patchwork, I don't get carried away with templates, if you don't already know that, and I build everything in bulk. You can see where I got the large piece used here, and I got the angle on it down. I got it trimmed up to fit there now. I've done the same thing again. I took another piece down and I got to put there. And I'll fit that there like that, clamp that in place there. I'll trim it up to fit it so it fits nicer. And I'll clamp that there and I'll weld that on there. I'm not worried about making a perfect little tiny small piece all the way along there. It's going to be too hard, it'll warp all up on you. Nice big chunky piece. And I'll turn around and I'll weld that in there and I'll get that there on that angle like that. And then I can actually start dressing it. And then once it's all made up, then I can start trimming it down to fit. You can see all I got done. I got this laid in place here. I clamped this onto the lip in here. So that got that angle there. And then I laid this down so it laid on the angle that I had to be here. If you look at it from this side here, you can see that it's not a square piece, see? And I went ahead then, I fit two of them till they were fit nice. Then I tack welded them along here. So now I got two of them made. I can just take these off, vice grips off. And now I got the piece, okay? You see the way that's shaped? It's got a strange shape to it. But that'll fit right in there now. And what I'll do is I'll weld all it up, dress all it up, and then I'll start trimming it to fit that. So I cleaned it all off. When I got into it, I had a section here was gone. Like you're talking about weird old places this rusted. In here, see, all this was gone in here. So I ended up making that in a couple of pieces because it did have a curvature in it. I've done it the same way I made the outside piece. I made the inside section, and then I made the outside section. But I welded it on first, came out. I welded the inside section here, the bottom one, and then I welded the upper section on, welded it and just grinded it. So it was a lot quicker for me to do it that way. So then I went and trimmed this up. I fit this in place and I trimmed it up. And I marked it and I trimmed back to where it'll actually butt in there, but it overlaps out here because I'll trim that now. After I get it all welded, I'm going to tack weld that in there, do the spot welds across there, and then work my way out from there, and then I'll cut this in here, do a cut and butt along here. And it'll be that section done. So there it is, all welded in, all grinded off. Spot welded across there, nice rolled edge along the outside edge of it there. Looks all original again. So that's the bottom part. So now we got one more spot to do. This is the interesting one. This goes right on up through there. Some light on it. Now we got the drip rail here that has a piece that comes in along here and goes down along here, and there's rust on this here. This is all gone here. So I'm going to cut a section out of here first, because this here goes over that panel. So I'm going to cut that out of there first, clean this up, get this cut back. Then I'm going to cut a section out of here that I can repair, and then I'll repair the inside section because the inside is gone as well. So that's a fun one to do. Let's get started on it. So here's what I got done. I removed the drip rail down as far as here. I got to clean that up a bit there, but that there is this structure here, okay? So what I went and did then is I come inside that again, and I cut a section of that out up along here. I didn't cut through this entire lip here because it's a lot easier to do it. I can weld that from the back side after, but it'll give me something solid to go to. All I'm doing is I'm stepping down with everything, with each piece that I'm doing. So now I can start and work from the inside out. I got all the rust cut out of it from here. So I'll end up making this piece here first, the inner structure, and then I'll make this outer structure here, and then I'll put the drip rail piece back onto it over the top of it again, right? That's all the way you do a lot of this stuff. You don't overthink it. It's multi-layers, many layers there, but you basically step it down into the inside one, start from the inside and work your way out. So I'm going to go ahead now and make up the piece to weld in there. I'm just going to weld the piece on there, and I get carried away with it. I'm going to tack weld the piece on there, weld it on, grind it, cut it off, weld a flat piece on here so I can cut the shape of it that I want to get there, and then I'll start working on the outside piece, right? So let's get that done now. This is all I went and did. I cut off a flat piece of steel and I bent it where it was the corner to, and then I put it on the angle that it had to be on, because it never comes straight out, it come out on an angle. What I done is I cleaned up the area that I had, and then I put this underneath it and then marked it with a marker, and then I trimmed this piece to fit that piece there. Don't overthink this stuff. You're going to think, well, I'm going to do that in one piece, and I'm going to bend it, and I'm going to put it in a shrinker stretcher and bend it. It will get complicated. I find it a lot faster and a lot easier just do it one piece at a time. I concentrated on this here, so I can actually get this here to fit up there nice. See? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind it off on the inside, then I'm going to trim that off there. Then I'm going to take another big large chunk and stick up there and weld onto there to get that, and then I'll trim it to that shape. And that's the easiest way I find is to do stuff like that, because you could really get carried away with trying to do this in two pieces, or trying to do this in one piece. And you know, you figure just bend it on a 90, split it through the middle, and then, you know, fold it over. No, it's not going to work right. One piece at a time, and you do a lot tidier job. There it is, welded in place, all grinded up. Okay. So now, next thing I'm going to do is build the outside piece. This is all I did, look. Old scraps piece of steel. I laid it up against that there where I liked it, and I marked it with a marker on the back side. Now I'll trim that off to there. I'll leave all the marker there and a little tiny bit more, and then I'll just trim it till it fits in there right nice, and then I'll just weld that in there. And there's the second piece welded in. Same process as before. I just cut it to fit and welded on. Didn't worry about this here. I got it marked now. I'm going to cut it off just out here, and then I'm going to bring it back with the grinder and just slowly grind it to fit it so it looks nice, right? All I've been using for this, most of everything on this here is this grinder here, okay? I got little tiny cutting wheels, which are the big ones that goes on my electric grinder, and I saves them up and I use them on the grinder. Then I got a whole bunch of these little stones that are really gone small. You can see that. And same with like these large wheels that I use, these ones here on the pad. I cut them down. I cut them down like that small and use them on that as well. So this is my go-to tool for mostly all that. It's very hard to do it all with electric grinder. I got this ear grinder, so I do most of it all with that. So I'm gonna get that cut off now and get that trimmed up. This is all I went and did. The problem I'm having here is that this angle here and this angle here is different, so I couldn't just bend a piece like that and then cut it, split it in the middle. This here has a different angle than this here, so I had to make one for this side, and join them in the middle. So here's what I come up with. Was this piece here, okay? If you look at it now, this is what I got done. I got spot welds along here. I made it out of two pieces here, and I joined it in through the middle here. This supposed to have a little small corner on it, a little slight roll, nothing serious. I've been comparing it to the other side. But up along the top here, this section goes up and it welds on in here to this piece here. So there's an edge on it. This is what I got done, right? I got a little edge put on like that. I can go up here and I can weld it on in here, okay? That's all I got done now. I got cleaned it all up. Like you see the back of it, it's just made up of pieces. I made that one up and you know, there's nothing fancy. I actually cut it off too short and I actually had to weld it back on again. So I'm going to go ahead now, fit that up in place there and get that all welded in. And there's that welded in. That came out nice. I'm pleased with that. Got a nice rolled edge all the way down through it there. Got the little lip on the top here, going along the top edge here, where it rolls up over. Now there's a small hole right here, but this all has to be seam sealed after. I've run into that before in many cars. There's actually sometimes there might be a small hole here and there on joints, because this here would have been welded to this and that would have been folded, so it would have been a gap here. This had a seam sealer going right along the edge of it here, so I'll get that. Now one more piece to put on, and that's this this thing here, the drip rail. I made up a little piece now that I'll put in there, and I'll weld that on there and weld over the top of that again, so that'll look like it's an original drip rail again, and then I'll grind and dress that off. So that's all it is. Little flat piece of steel with the corner rounded off it, cut on an angle like the other side, and just going to lay that in place there, weld it on down through there, and plug welded on, because this got a bit of a step in it right here. When I welded this piece in, I welded it in here, but I left a little bit of a step there. So when I put this in there, there's room for that to fall back. And there it is, all welded in and grinded off. I got the little lip going up along there, going into that section there. You got the corner all back again, no hole there in the corner, nice lip going along. I went and welded the inside and grinded that off. Remember I cut through there and I cut through there. I welded the back side of it. But that's basically it for that. Like I said many times before, don't overthink it. This here had 3 or 4 layers of metal that had to be put together. And I just started by one and concentrated on it and worked my way outwards, just so I can actually make it look presentable looking. You would probably try to take this and try to make it all in one piece and stuff like that and try to bend up steel. I always found it a lot faster and a lot easier just to make it in individual small pieces. It's a small repair. You're not, not building nothing elaborate here. You're trying to repair rust is what you're trying to do. But you like to have it so it's a nice finish and everything on it going along. So that there looks good there now. I'll just put a bit of seam sealer along there again now, down through here when it's all said and done. And that'll be all that done. So I got one more section to do. This is the last section I got on this side here, and then I'll have this side of the car. The main shell will be completed. All the rust will be repaired. This side here was pretty bad because we had all these sections here that were gone up here, holes here, holes here. The front was gone here, and of course we had the antenna. So now we got to make a piece for this. So again, I'm just going to take a piece of steel there now and cut it out. Just the size of that there, a little bit bigger than that, and I'll start shaping it. I'm going to run it through the English wheel because the panel do have a crown on it. This is the piece I cut out. And if you look at it, there's a crown on that panel, okay? So I'm going to just take a large section now and try to get this shape in it and go from there. I'm not going to worry about back here yet, this back edge. Not going to worry about the lead or nothing on here because something tells me I'm going to end up having to take this lead out here because the steel right here I can weld to it, but I'm going to disturb the lead when I get the heat into it, see? So I think I'm just going to melt all this out of here and see how big of a gap and everything is there. So I'll probably just weld a piece over the top of it just to eliminate the lead altogether. So here's all I went and did. I went and cut out a piece of scrap metal. This is the piece that I got to duplicate. So I made it bigger, wider, all that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over an English wheel and I'm going to turn around and start wheeling this here to try to get a crown on this here. As you can see, this one here got a pretty big crown on it. So I'm going to go over and wheel that now. See how close I can get to that. This is my old English wheel. I made this a number of years ago. I don't use it a lot. It's just a simple little section that I bought off of eBay that came with brackets. And it came with another set of wheels. I've since upgraded. I managed to find a larger wheel and a bunch of dies for the bottom. There's nothing. I made the frame myself, just all from old scrap. I covered it in other videos. But what I'm going to do here now is this here is just a regular crown. Small, like a real low crown. I'm going to put the largest crown I got there on it. Because I was going to go move half quick. I am not a wheel expert by no means, okay? I do all this just as I learn. So I'm going to take that down, start wheeling that piece of steel and see what I can come up with. As you can see, it's a long process. I'm going to go ahead and play with this for a while and see what I can come up with. And I'll come back, I'll let you know how long I was at it. So here's where I'm to, okay? All I went and did here is I turned around and wheeled it for a while, and then I was trying to get the crown out of it. I ended up taking out the ring. You've seen me do that before in other videos. And I laid it over the top of it, and I pounded it to get it to crown quicker, okay? Used a ball peen hammer, just tapped it. I just tapped it down into the ring. And if you look at it, you'll actually see where they were. You can actually see the marks in it. See some of the marks there. Okay, and what I did then is I went over and I wheeled them out of it. Then I had to roll the upper edge of it. As you can see, the upper edge of it is rolled there now. Okay, and all I used is I got an old handle. I had two of these that I picked up to make this one here. Okay, and I kept the handle off it just for that reason. And I rolled the edge with the hammer, tapping it, rolled it over on the edge here to get this edge up here. And then I went over and I wheeled it again. So I think I'm pretty close there now that I'm going to start trimming it to fit. When I lay that in there now, I can rock that either way, and it actually sits pretty level on the both spots there. It's just I got to tweak the metal in order to get it fit in there. So I'm going to take this over now, I'm going to trim it up and get it to fit better so it overlaps a bit, but it fits on the roof, and then I can start fine-tuning it from there. I'd probably, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour tops at this so far. I never recorded a lot of what I was doing because I can honestly tell you is that I just guesstimated a lot of this stuff. You know, when I start moving stuff around, I said, how can I get this to move? This is the angle I got to get it on. Then I start experimenting with different things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. So I didn't really want to get into details about the English wheel stuff because there's so much information out there that you can get that's way better. I just use it here, and as a hobbyist, I don't know a lot about it. I do know enough about it to that I get myself by. So I never really got into detail on it. So I'm going to go over now, trim that up, and get that fitting in place. That is not half bad. What I got done is I got to put down behind this little lip here. Down behind it, I'm going to leave it like that and weld it along here to give a bit of strength to everything here. To give me something to. I'm not going to worry about doing a cotton bud in here, because I'm really concerned about this here is going to be thin anyway, and I'm trying to save this little raised lip along here. But along here now so far is good, sticking up a little tiny bit there. So I'm going to have to work it. This rolled edge here, I'm going to round this off this corner here a bit more on the back end of it. Up front here, it looks really well, it looks good. The way it is there, that seems to be sitting good. Up along there, looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to work this end down here a bit more, get more of a rolled edge on it, round it out a bit more going through here. And then I'm going to turn around and come back and then just keep test fitting it till I can get this corner here, or I can trim it off and figure out what I'm going to do with it. I think I'm just going to cut it off and weld a piece onto it and make it up, because I think trying to work this corner here, I'm just going to fool everything up. So anyway, I'll get that dollied up now and fitting. So I got to work there now. I'm pretty pleased with it. When you put a bit of pressure on it there, it lines up pretty good there. It's got a nice flow down to the rest of it. Up through here looks good. When you're looking at it this way here, it's got a nice fit. Down here now, all I did is I marked it up here and across here, because I want this here, and I cut this off section here because I got to put a piece on an angle this way, and I just assume do it that way than it is to try to roll this edge over, because I'm just going to fool up this whole corner here. It's a lot easier to make it out of welding than it is to trying to get that there and not to roll over that edge there, because then you're just going to fool up the flow you got going on here. There's ways of doing it. There's guys out there that do it that way. I'm just not going to do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that off there now and get that ready to fit the piece on it. Done it many times before, cutting a round circle with a grinder, just a small wheel on it. I never use tin snips, I use a grinder for everything. Just to give you an example, this is the piece that I trimmed off the end of it. I ended up flattening it out, okay? Because the curved edge of it made it too high, okay? Now when I lay this in place here, and I touch it on the bottom, and I touch it on the top, it's touched there, it's touched there. Now there's a big large gap from about here all the way down to here, all through that whole section there, okay? You can see it there. This is what you're dealing with. This section here would have to be stretched, because this originally was up this way here and rolled around this way on the turn. Now when that was rolled like that, it was too high. Okay, so it had to be flattened out, and then it's got to be trimmed in. You could probably do it, but I prefer to do it this way. I'll sand this down here a bit here and a bit here, and I'll get this here so this gap in here in the corner closes up and it lays flat this way. You see the way that got to lay? Like so. So I'll trim that up there now and get that fitting and get that tacked in place. See, here's all I did. I trimmed them up so they fit in there nice tight gap in there now. And I just put it in place and I tacked it. And you can see now that it goes over and it flows off the end of it there. Okay? All of it's overlapping. Like, you're looking at this, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? No, I'm not worried about none of this. I'm not worried about none of this up here. All I'm worried about is getting from here to here with this nice little flow along here. I'm going to concentrate on that section there right now. I'm not going to worry about nothing else on the panel. I'm not worried about down being overlapping the lead. Not worried about none of that. I'm just going to get this here finished so I got a panel then that'll fit in here. So I'm going to go ahead now and weld all this up here. And I'm going to turn around and take the other side of it and weld it up. And I'm going to grind and dress this corner here so I got a nice crisp edge that'll line up with this and it'll line up with that. Now I went ahead and welded on the outside, welded on the inside. Now when it comes to grinding it, I talked about it before. I got this plane here and I got this plane here. I'm going to grind this flat this way and I'm going to grind this flat this way and get a sharp edge along there. All I went and did. Now I'll do the same thing around here. You get a sharp edge like that, round it off. You got a nice rolled edge going around there now. I'm going to clean this up in this side here now, grind that down a bit flush so it fits better. And then that'll be ready to do another test fit on it. So now you can see it there. Nice little rolled edge comes down along there. Lines up with that and lines up with that over there. I went ahead and I put a mark up here and down here. I want to see how much of this I can trim off. I'm going to cut this across here and I got to trim up this inside edge. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I could probably mark this here, but I'm not going to leave it alone for now and just leave that long. I'm just going to get this here now to fit where I can weld it on. And up here, mark it where I can probably do a cutting board on it. I'm not quite sure. I might have a small bit of an overlap there and have it so I can cut it. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do there. Down here either. So I'm going to take this off, size up what I got, and make a plan. So after thinking about it something, I decided I'm going to do something I don't do a lot on this channel, and that's lap weld, okay? The more I size this up down here, I removed the lead out of here, I just grinded it out is all I did. And there's an indentation here, okay? So the panel I got only comes to here, but it's in, okay? Now I want to weld a piece across here and try to flush that, so I haven't got to put no lead or nothing back in there, because when it comes to drag cars, all this stuff got a tendency to crack. And so I've run on that road before. Now back here, I'm going to do a butt weld. I'm going to cut this back here, cut it up, trim out this corner here, okay? And then trim this back to here, probably back to here somewhere. And then see how wide this is here? I'm going to cut that off right in there, so there's very little metal there. Up on this end, I'm going to do a butt weld, okay? And down here, I'm going to do a butt weld. Down here is going to be overlapped, and up here is going to be overlapped. And why I'm doing that is because I'm playing around with it here, and I think if I cut this, I can't do the cutting butt because I can't get at the panel once it's let go, okay? But if I do the cutting butt on it, the problem I'm going to run into is that I'm going to have to do a cut to fit. Then I'm going to have to deal with this roof moving around on me. This got a crown on it this way here, so when I welds it, I can grind it, and you're not going to see it. It's not like it's a flat edge up on top here. It's on the crown part of the panel. So I think it'll give me some backing, especially where this is light metal. It'll give me something that I can actually weld to. So from about right here to right here, I'm going to do a lap weld. Right here is going to be a butt weld. Down here is going to be a lap weld. But I'm going to cut as much of the material out there as I possibly can, so there's nothing there that'll build up any moisture or whatever. Then I'm going to paint it all, okay? So I'm going to get this all trimmed up and get ready to put the panel in place. So here's all I got done. I got it all cut off up here. There's going to be a butt weld along here, and you can see there's going to be a butt weld on the end here, and then there's going to go to an overlap. Up along here, it's just on this side of the black lines. Not very much of it there, okay? Just enough to hold this panel in place. Okay, I can probably, if I want to, get carried away with it and do a cut and butt here, but I'm really thinking about, I'm just going to make a lot of work for myself, and the type of car this is, what I'm going to use it for, I think, and where this is on a crown roll edge, I can get an impression, do the cotton button here and have it all right nice, but I think I'm just going to make life a lot easier for myself and just do a little bit of an overlap here. I'm going to do a small bit of an overlap down here as well. I could probably do a cut to fit down here if I really want to, but I find that I like this panel to be up a little small bit, so I got a little concave in here that I can weld a piece in her to make this flush. If it does a weld in here, then I got to fade it out. So by doing an overlap, like it would have been nice if I made the piece longer and I could have come right down into here and cut it off and put it out to here, but that's fine. I'll put a second piece in it, not going to lose no sleep over it. Over here on this end here, that's cut to fit, and that's cut to fit up here, and then I'll trim this after when I gets close to it, and I'll weld that corner up and reshape that corner itself. So I'm going to get this all painted here now. I cleaned all the rust and everything up off of this here as best I could, and I'm going to paint all this in here now. I'm going to paint the back of that panel there, let it dry, and then I'm going to install that. So I went ahead and I cleaned off all the paint around the edges where I had it painted and everything. I got it fit in place there now. And I got a pair of clamps put in here. I'm going to start tack welding it in along here now. Get this here flat and tack weld that in there, because you can see that's flush mounted there, and that will be flush mounted there when I push down on a bit. Along here it will be overlapped. And along here now, I got it tucked in behind here. I didn't want to try to do any butt welding or nothing. The biggest problem I got with trying to do a butt weld on this here is the panel is so opened out here, and this is like 22, 24 gauge metal. And I'm really asking for trouble if I try to do it. And I think I'll be better off in the long run if I just did a small lap joint, and that's what I got done here, very small one. And same with down here as well, because this here is a raised lip, and I'm just going to weld it on the inside corner edge, right? Sometimes you can get away with it in certain spots, especially like on a roll or on an edge like that, because you can grind it, and you haven't got to worry about being high build, like built up on the welds and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead now and start tack welding this in place there and getting this welded in place. Our tack welded in place, and you can see I got her overlapped up here and overlapped down here. If you saw me here well in this corner here, you saw me constantly doing a little bit of dabbing. The problem I'm having with this car, and I had this before on other imports from the 70s, is the metal is very hard to weld, okay? In certain spots you get there, and like you look at the metal, you think it's rusty. It welds like rusty metal, but it's not rusty, okay? It's very thin. So, and this is one of the reasons why I decided to do the lap joint here, is because it's so thin and the way it welds. I kept having to turn the welder down, and what I mean by turning it down, I leave my wire speed where it's 2, and what I'd be doing, I'd be going from 3 down to a little bit more than 2, right here, see? I'll be moving it from here, right? When I was doing trying to weld a thinner metal, and then I move it back up here. I find that if it's down here, it doesn't weld, doesn't get no good penetration, but it welds the thin metal good, and then I'll move it up here once I got it welded, and I'll do the lap welds and stuff like that with that there. That way I get good penetration on it. It depends on the welder. Go back and look at my video. Don't go using these settings on your Lincoln welder and stuff like that. This is particular for me, for this welder, for this type of job. Each job is different, okay? But that's one of the reasons why I decided to do this, because I'm having a lot of troubles with this car with thin metal, okay? So I'm going to go ahead now, trim this up, get this all welded up here, and let this cool down a bit, and go ahead around and get all this welded up, and so that I can get it all dressed up and grind it off. See, all I did here, and I took the zip blade, I just cut it straight off so it's a chunk of it out of my way. I left it there for now. All I'm going to do now is I got a stone on the air grinder, and I'm just going to start grinding that back there to shape it till it comes into the metal there. I'm going to weld and dress this corner, finish this corner off all completely before I weld everything up, because I want this corner to look right, and for the outside edge here, because it's going to be kind of hard to do any amount of filler work here, like have a high spot or anything like that. So if I runs into any troubles, I can still take the panel off the car, which I hope I don't have to do, but still. But that's my whole goal, is that. Get this corner done, dress it, finish it, and then move on and weld the rest of it up. So here's what I got done so far. I got the back side all grinded off, all dressed. Got the lip and everything. What I done here on this very corner is I grind it back, and I grind it on almost like a 45. Then I put a lot of heat into it, and I welded it, and I blew through basically every single time I welded it along the edge, because I wanted to get a lot of penetration on this inside corner, because I wanted to dress and grind it, and I needed to have it welded on the inside. So I put extra heat into it and just took my time and made sure that I put a lot of heat in it and I burned through it, and so that way I had metal on the inside. And then I just grind and dressed it. Then I just come down here and I welded it, and I took the grinder and grinded that off along there, so I got a little indent here now. I'm going to put a little strip in there and weld that up, so that's done. Up here was tricky. I had to put weld the edge of it here and then grind it. It was more tricky grinding it than it was welded, so I can get the lip back. It's a little bit wonky, but I got to fill that anyway, but I'm happy with that. Up here, it gets very, very tricky, whereas the original one is so thin. I had got to watch it, because it doesn't take much to wear this out, right? In terms of what to grind through it. It's very, very thin. It's amazing how thin this stuff is. But right here, the transition from here is good. Now all I got left to do is this up here. So I'm going to weld all it up there now. I'm going to take my time, just weld it, going to let it cool naturally. Weld everyone, leave it alone. When it cools down, weld it again. I'm very concerned about getting warpage out along here, see? I never had to worry about it down here, along here, because you're in a tight area. But now I got to deal with this here. So I'm going to go up here, take my time, and weld that up. As I was welding this up, going along, tack welding that place, I went ahead and made up a little piece to go in here while I'm waiting for that to cool down. And I start tack welding that in. Welding that in is pretty solid here, because there's just 2 or 3 layers there. So I'm going to solid weld that in there. So let that cool down a bit there now. And go back up here when this is cool. Keep going. Get that all welded up. So I got this all welded up and finished off. I got a couple of spots there I went and redone again, just little spots. So that section's done, and then I grinded this off up here, and what I'm doing now is I'm welding next to the welds, just so I can gradually fade it back more on that side there. You'll probably end up seeing a bit here. I'm not so much concerned about it, because this here is really good. I'm really amazed with that there. It's just a section here now that will have to be looked after. So I'm going to go ahead now, let that cool off, and then continue on weld that up. And I can grind that off, and that'll be finished then. And there you have it. Got it all welded up, all grinded off all along there. Feels pretty good. It's not what you call perfect, because the problem I'm having with this car is the metal is so thin that I'm running into heat issues and burning holes and stuff like that. But by doing the lap joint here, what it done is it gave strength to the roof here now, right? Because like as you're going through it, right? By welding this like I did, you can see it's nice and solid there now, right? And the back corner here looks nice. All this back corner here. But now this here, like you would think, okay, what's it like? This is not perfect. You can actually see it there in the light. So when I hold something across this here, you can see that did tuck in, look. Right where the weld is too. It did drop a small bit from there to there. It's good on the ends, on both ends of it, but it's just through there. Now, if I want to, I could probably get a spoon in behind it. I'm not going to fool with that, because I'm afraid I'm just going to fool up everything out here. I like the strength here. I don't mind putting a bit of filler in that there. Same with down here. This is all solid now, but if you hold this here across this here, you can see it's still a bit low in a few spots. Don't ever be concerned about that. You're after the strength of it, and you don't mind a bit of filler, right? So that's a lot better than what was there. Okay, I got this side completed now. All around the windows are done. I think I just sat down and counted up. There was over 20 patches and holes that had to be welded up just in this side alone since I started back on the car. Not counting all the work that was already done to it, okay? This is after dragging on pretty long here now. I got a bit more work to do on the car yet. I got a piece over here to weld. Now this side here was really tricky. The entire lip here is bad. It's got holes in it, okay? Plus I got the holes down here where the entire lip is gone. So this side here is going to be a video in itself. Many of you have asked me about replacing drip rails. I'm going to replace this entire section of the roof. And I'm going to replace all this in here with the drip rail, okay? So that's going to be in the next video. I'm not going to get into that now, but I figured I'd just give you a heads up on it, because I'm going to just get started on this now and get that all figured out and cut out. But I think we're making headway with it. I got all the patchwork on this side is all completed. So now all it got to be left to be done is to be treated and primed. And so I went out today or yesterday and picked up a gallon of primer. All right, so I got primer for it. I managed to get it in white. That's what I was after, because I'm painting the car white. I like putting the primer out that's close to the color that is going. And my whole goal with this now is to get the main shell all sealed up. I'm not going to do no body work on it yet, okay? I just want to get a rust converter on over these panel sections here, and I want to get a coat of primer over the whole top of this. That primer has a rust inhibitor in it, so it's direct to metal, so you can put that right on metal, and it should work with this. And I'm hoping to see how it's going to work out. This is an experimenting type setup for me, because this car do have a lot of rust, and I want to see how it holds up. So I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips were good, and until next time. Cut it off too short, and actually had to weld it back on again. Hey bud, how you doing? In for inspection? Mm-hmm. Yep.